Hello, I'm Bill LeMay, and thank you for watching Community Matters. We hope you'll continue to watch as we discuss issues facing our community and provide you with the resources and information needed to find solutions. This week, we're talking about the need for foster parents in our area, the life-changing relationships that develop, and how you can become a foster parent. Joining me now to tell us more is Lisa Cauley, Child Welfare Division Director with Wake County Human Services. So nice of you to join us. Welcome.
Thank you for asking me to be here. I'm glad to talk about this.
Well, I know personally this is something that I've investigated, so I'm very anxious to hear and provide that to the viewers as well. Maybe you could just start with just what it is you do and the agency and kind of a broad view of what foster parenting is about.
Okay. I am the Child Welfare Division Director in Wake County, and that means that I have oversight for Child Protective Services, which is the workers that go out into homes, determine if homes are safe, and make decisions about whether or not children come into foster care, and also foster care and adoptions, which is the service that helps children who can't live with their parents.
So how great is that need?
It's a great need, and I think it's a great need when it's done well, because when it's done well, that means children stay in Wake County. So we have homes for all the children that we have in foster care, but some of the homes, especially for teenagers and siblings, are outside of Wake County, some in group homes, because we don't have a place for them to live with foster parents in our county, in their schools, in their community.
Well, let's talk a little bit about being a foster parent. Now, you're somewhat unique. You have a perspective of being in a foster family. I mean, you were the child, but your parents fostered children,
Yes,
correct?
That is correct.
And for a lot of folks, I know when I was thinking about it, it was like, oh my goodness, how will this impact the other kids? How do you give back a child that you, I assume, fall in love with? So what was it like for you, first off, being a child in the home? I mean, because you were a child and your parents fostered, correct?
Correct.
How did you react to that?
I think it's always a challenge at first, because with any new child that enters a family, there's a different relationship with the child, there's a different relationship with your parents. Sometimes you're not the baby. I was the oldest, and I think the family has to adjust, and so the children do too. So I think that initial adjustment happens for everybody. For me, I wanted a sister. I only had brothers, and so we had lots of children in our home that were boys, and that was just another one of, I have 3 biological brothers, but for me, in the end, I actually got a sister who we adopted, so it was a very positive thing.
Well, that's neat. Now, may I ask how many children over the years that your parents fostered?
There were 4 biological children. They adopted 1, and so I think it was about, at one point I counted up and I can't remember, I think it was about 13.
13 kids?
13, and some were babies. When my parents were foster parents, it was more likely for children to enter foster care for short periods of time when parents were sick. And so we had a number of infants that came and stayed for a short period of time and then went back to their biological parents.
How did you deal with the separation when they went back to their parents?
It was hard. I think you think about, I would have been 8 or 9, and they were like baby dolls, and so it would be sad. I had a mother, though, who believed that children should be with their parents. Now, she was always very sad, but she was always very clear that if children could live with their parents and their parents were safe, that's where they needed to go. So she set that real standard for the children in our family around what was best.
That is neat. Now, did that influence you in becoming what you are today?
Funny that you would ask. I have, my parents were foster parents from the time when I was either 8 or 9 until when I was 16. And so I heard a lot of, and you know, even foster parents today, they have a lot to say about the foster parenting system. They certainly give me, as the division director in Wake County, advice on what should happen. And I had a mother like that. And so in my mind, I still sometimes remember what she would say about being a foster parent, and those are just lessons that you take with you, especially if you choose that as this is your career.
Well, if someone is interested, and I don't know if this is for everybody, I'm sure it's not, what do you look for in a foster parent Because I tell you what, that's something special to be able to love the child, and I'm sure your parents loved the children.
They did.
Right? And a foster parent has to love the child, but then to be willing to do the best thing for the child, that's quite courageous. So I'm not sure I could meet that standard. I'll be honest with you. So what do you look for in order to bring children into a home environment? If someone wants to be a foster parent.
Well, you nailed it. You nailed it when you said they have to love the child. But you also have to be willing to treat the child like it was your biological child. Everybody in the family has to have the same relationship. And so you need people who are willing to parent children who come in having experienced many things that were hurtful, and they show you behaviors that came out of that. They have to be patient and willing to have hope and believe that children can grow and develop and be different. And then you have all the licensing requirements around criminal background checks. There's training. You have to have your own home and be able to be self-sufficient. But most of all, you have to be a person who can love the child and see not only who they are when they enter foster care, but who they could be.
Now, you were talking about how you determine, your agency determines whether a child stays with the parent and has to be pulled out of the home. And you also kind of mentioned that these children sometimes have behavioral issues. And I just want the viewers to understand, if you become a foster parent, some of the challenges they may be facing. And you have firsthand view on this. What are these kids going through? And how has it impacted those kids? And then thus, what challenges will a foster parent have to deal with?
I think, first of all, recognize that for each child it's different. You know, they all have a different experience, and they all have and so it's a different impact on the child. However, if you think about who comes in foster, all children that come into foster care were either abused or neglected in some way, and that impacts children. So you really might see your very best child who their way of protecting themselves was just to do everything like they were supposed to. You might see that. That's not the typical child in foster care. I mean, if you think about how you act if you don't have enough food, if you don't get enough attention, you see attention-seeking behaviors, things that kids do that are indicative of not having structure in the home. So if somebody if you're not taught how to interact with parents and that the parents are in charge, then the kids, they're in charge. And so all those challenging behaviors are what most foster parents talk about when kids enter foster care.
Do you look at a foster parent and judge whether or not a child who might have behavioral problems will be a fit for that foster parent and for that family? And does age make a difference as well? Because everybody wants a newborn, right? And a lot of these kids, of course, are much older than that.
Right, yeah. I think we look at, we provide training, so we try to build the capacity of all foster parents. But we really look at who our foster parents are and what their strengths are. And then we try to look at who the children are and place based on this is the child, this is what they need, and this is a foster parent. That said, we often have to place children that we have little information about. So we may not know what the child's behaviors are going to be until they go into a foster home. And I think we work with foster parents as partners where they help us understand who the child is, and we help them determine how to parent the child.
Well, that would be an amazing gift, and I hope there are lots of people watching who are willing to at least attempt it, because it's most certainly needed. And what a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for taking the time today to spend with us.
You're welcome. I enjoyed it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, we'll talk specifics about how you can become a foster parent, so stay with us.